Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Yubel Yugioh deck profile for post-Phantom Nightmare. We, after a long time, finally got new Yubel support in the form of a new fusion monster and a bunch of new main deck cards that all play around the original Yubel style of the destruction, and then just being able to inflict burn damage to your opponent, the special summon power of the deck. It all works very, very well together, revolving also around Super Polymerization, one of the main cards that Yubel used against Jaden Yuki, and also, enforced him to use when he became the Supreme King. I'm very, very happy with all of the new support, and definitely excited to show you all what I have for the deck profile. So let's go ahead and get started with the video. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Yubel lineup, we're running one copy of each of the original three Yubel monsters. So one copy of Yubel, one copy of Yubel Terror Incarnate, and then the one copy of Yubel Ultimate Nightmare, having the special summon power when Yubel is destroyed to summon out Terror Incarnate being able to destroy all other monsters on the field as well. And then when each one of them leaves the field, they can special summon each respected one as well. And then also when your Yubel Ultimate Nightmare attacks, inflict damage equal to that monster of your opponent, and also with you not being able to take any battle damage from any of these three cards. They all revolve around a lot of the plays in the deck, but we really only need the one of copies for each one of the original Yubel cards. For the new cards, we are running three copies of Yubel, or Spirit of Yubel. This is one of the new cards from the Phantom Nightmare set. It cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no damage from battles involving this card. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon one of your Yubel that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Spirit of Yubel once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's special summoned, you can add to your hand or set one spell or trap directly from your deck that mentions Yubel. Having a good variety of cards that revolve around this play, we can set up a good number of different setups, including one of our new spells being Mature Chronicle, which can also give us a search for Super Polymerization to our hand. We're also running three copies of the new Samsara D Lotus. You can tribute this card to special summon one Yubel monster from your deck during your opponent's turn. When a monster effect is activated while you control Yubel monster, quick effect, you contribute this card to activate. The effect becomes destroy one Yubel monster on the field. And during the end phase, if you control Yubel and this card's in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand or special summoning it, giving you the resource to then have the Samsara D Lotus on the field with your Yubel monster. And then when that Yubel monster is destroyed, giving you then a summon of one of the other bigger Yubel monsters. Or if you have the Spirit of Yubel as well for this card, you have the special summon of this card on the field, and when it's destroyed, being able just to grab the initial Yubel also. And then also running the one copy of Geist Grinder Golem. You can only special summon Geist Grinder Golem once per turn. You can reveal one Yubel monster in your hand, special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field. Then you can special summon the revealed monster to your field once per turn during damage calc. If this card battles a Yubel monster, your opponent gains 3,000 life points. If you special summon Yubel while this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card to your opponent's field. This gives you a monster resource as well, being able to then have a monster on your opponent's field to use for Super Polymerization. Special summoning this card to your opponent's field, then special summoning the revealed monster for it as well, revealing the Yubel monster just to give you another special summoned resource on the field for you to use against your opponent, while still giving them a card that you can easily make use of or get rid of with one of your own Yubel monsters, whether it be from the Super Polymerization play as I mentioned, or even just swinging into it or destroying it with one of the other two Yubel monsters also. I also run the two copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. This card's in the deck so we can have the additional normal summon of some of our other monsters as well, gaining the additional main phase. You can normal summon one Fiend monster with 0 attack or defense in addition to your normal summoner set, so then you have a way to grab some Samsara D Lotus onto the field as well, having more monster resources in turn with that monster. And also the two copies of Gameciel, the one copy of Dogoran, and the one Jizukiru for just more kaiju options to give to our opponent by tributing their other monsters, because then we just need for Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, the one Yubel monster and one effect monster on the field. So if we can get rid of a pesky monster that may have a destruction effect or sent to the graveyard, you can at least tribute it for a kaiju and then give that resource to your opponent also, and then have an easier monster to use for your Super Polymerization play. With the last of our monsters, one Archfiend Eccentric, just another Fiend monster to make use of for some of the plays on the field, but also having a destruction play in the Pendulum Scale or a monster destruction play when summoned as a monster. And then also 3 copies of Nibiru and 2 copies of Effect Veiler to finish off the main deck monsters. If you wanted to run Ash Blossom, you could always replace it for the Nibiru spot. Just another tribute option, but one of my preferences in the deck also. And moving on now to the spells, running 3 copies of Super Polymerization, one of the more important cards in the deck. Discarding 1 card to fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion material. And also neither player can activate card or effects in response to this card's activation. And also being searchable off of Mature Chronicle, which can be a searchable Yubel card since it has Yubel in its name. So just a quick play spell. You have plenty of other fusion resources aside from Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, that you can go into with Super Polymerization in the deck in the form of the fusion monsters. I also run 2 copies of Nightmare Pain. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 dark monster in your hand or face on the field to add 1 Yubel or 1 card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, except for Nightmare Pain. You can only use this effect once per turn, and while you control a Yubel monster, your opponent monsters that can attack must attack Yubel monsters, and your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving your Yubel monsters. So this just makes it so then you can activate your own Yubel monster effects, thanks to Nightmare Pain, but also have a way to at least destroy some of the other Yubel monsters to get these special summons of Uns as well, being able to destroy the Spirit of Yubel also for the play. And also, if this card is destroyed, you have the special summon of another Yubel monster, and Yubel can then grab other cards, including the Terror Incarnate or the Ultimate Nightmare. I also run the 2 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. This is to search out our Dark Beckoning Beast. So then we just have a search to grab this to then have another additional normal summon of our Dark Monster on the field. And the 1 copy of Mature Chronicle. Each time a monster is special summon that is Yubel monster that mentions Yubel, place 1 Chronicle counter on this card. You can remove counters on the field to activate one of these effects. If it's 1, you can special summon 1 Yubel from your graveyard. 2, add 1 of your banished cards to your hand. 3, banish 1 card on the field. 4, destroy 1 card on the field. Or 5, add 1 Super Polymerization from your deck to your hand. Having a Super Polymerization search just by utilizing Yubel for the monsters or monsters that mentioned it means it's just very easy to build up the counters with this deck. We really only need the 1 copy, since this card can also be searched since it has Yubel in its name, and also the 1 copy of 1 for 1, the 1 Snatch Steal, and the 1 Call by the Grave for some of the 1-ofs that we run in the deck. You can always replace some of these cards for Small World. We have some monsters that just work well with the Small World setup if you wish to add for some of the Fiend plays, including the Archfiend Eccentric, having the Fiend setup for this monster as well. And then for the rest of the spells, 2 copies of Triple Tactics Downs in case our opponent try any monster hand trap card effects against us. This can at least get us some draw power or more resources to take away from our opponent. For the traps, running 1 copy of Eternal Favorite once per turn. You can activate one of these effects. If you go and use each effect of Eternal Favorite once per turn, you can special summon 1 of your Yubel monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Either player can activate card or effects when that monster is special summoned. And if you control a Yubel, discard 1 card to send this face-up card to the graveyard to fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as material, including a Yubel monster. So sort of like a makeshift Super Polymerization to use in the deck as well, just being able to summon out your Yubel fusion monster thanks to a trap instead of having to rely on Super Polymerization. And then also the 1 Gozen match, just as more or less for the fact that we can only each control 1 attribute. For the majority of the time, you're only going to have dark, so more of a limitation for your opponent most of the time. And also 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence for the remaining traps, just being a hand trap option against our opponent also. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I run 2 copies of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. You need 1 Yubel monster and 1 effect monster on the field. If this card's fusion summon, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each material used. You're going to use this effect of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, once per turn. So having multiple effect monsters on the field for your opponent means Yubel will take all of those with Super Polymerization to make this card, inflicting bigger burn damage to your opponent as well. You're going to use each effect of Yubel, the Loving Defender, once per turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that opponent's monster's attack, and if you do, banish that monster. So another scary Yubel setup, just having a monster to swing into your opponent's cards and then take out that monster, inflicting battle damage, sort of what just all the other Yubel monsters do combined into 1 fusion monster. Also, the 1 copy of Mud Dragon of the Swamp, the 1 copy of Garura, 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia, along with 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, and the 1 Triple Veritum, having other fusion options with our Super Polymerization if we just don't want to go into Yubel, or if we don't have the Yubel on the field to summon this card out. Also, for the Link monsters, the 1 copy of Almirage, the 1 SP Little Knight, the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and the 1 Dark the Dark Charmer. We don't go into too many big high Link monsters, with Fusion being the main focus in the deck. But for our Xyz monsters, because we do have a lot of level 10s in the deck, 1 Gustav Max, 1 Gongaradai, 1 Zeus, and the 1 Sky Crisis as another way to overlay on some of our other extra deck monsters also. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, this deck still revolves around needing the destruction setup for your Yubel cards. So then with this play, you have the setup of your Samsara D Lotus, being able to tribute this card to special summon a Yubel monster from your deck. So with this card during your opponent's turn, when a monster effect is activated while you control Yubel, you can tribute this card. Activate effect becomes destroy 1 Yubel monster on the field. So you'll summon out your Samsara using the tribute to then get your Yubel monster on the field, which you can summon out the Spirit of Yubel. And then with this card, when an opponent's monster declares attack, you have the special summon of this card. If it's special summon, you can add to your hand or set 1 spell or trap that mentions Yubel. So either you have the special summon play since you summoned out Spirit of Yubel. You can then have the Samsara D Lotus in the graveyard. Yubel will activate since it was special summon to set 1 spell or trap that mentions Yubel. So then with this card, you can set up your Mature Chronicle on the field. So then you have the special summon of a Yubel monster or one that mentions Yubel. So at the end of the turn, you'll summon back the Samsara Lotus, building up 1 of the counters on this card as well. Each time a monster that is special summon that is Yubel or a Yubel monster, or you can even go for the Nightmare Pain set, because then you can activate them both, whichever one you want, since they are continuous spells, using Nightmare Pain to destroy a dark monster on the field to add 1 Yubel or 1 card that mentions it. So then you can destroy the Spirit of Yubel, adding the Mature Chronicle off of the Nightmare Pain, being able to activate that card as well, activating the Spirit of Yubel to then grab the normal Yubel onto the field, or you could even go for the Terror Incarnate after the special summon and destruction of the second Yubel. This will give you 2 counters as well, since you had the Mature Chronicle set up on the field after the destruction play, as well as the end phase Samsara D Lotus to summon also. You have your 2 effect monsters here, and then all you have to rely on is either having your opponent summon some monsters. If you have the Super Polymerization in your hand, then you can use the Yubel, the 1 Samsara D Lotus you control, and then any of the effect monsters your opponent summons to then get out your fusion monster. And if your opponent had at least 1 other monster, that's 1500 burn damage thanks to these, or even more depending on how many you wanted to wait to summon out the Loving Defender Forever. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Like I said, very, very awesome that we got some new Yubel support in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.